What's going on, everybody? It's the City to City podcast. I'm your host, Julian Mitchell. I'm here with 16-year NBA vet Al Harrington. And you have transitioned now into being an entrepreneur, having your own line of CBD and cannabis and expanding that to a lot of different markets, which I definitely want to talk to you about as well. Taking it back, though, you came from an era, where a lot of stars were coming straight out of high school, going to the NBA. You went from high school to the NBA. So first, even talking about that, your perception of the dream of being in the NBA as a high school student going to the pros to where it is now, like, what was your thought process entering the league?
Well, for me, man, it was fast. It was a learning curve for me. That was pretty quick because I didn't play basketball seriously, at least until I got into high school. So when I got to high school, I was very uncoordinated. I wasn't really athletic. I couldn't dunk. I was 6'4" as a freshman, couldn't dunk. Everybody else on the team, even guys that was 6 feet tall.
And now, was this something where they just kind of pushed you into basketball then, or is that something you actually had a passion for?
No, I got pushed into basketball after my freshman year. I played football, and football was my passion. After the football season was over, I wanted to focus on getting stronger so that I could potentially play varsity as a sophomore. But the JV football coach was the freshman basketball coach at my school. So he gave me a nickname, Big Daddy. So he was just like, Big Daddy, you playing basketball on my team this year? And I was like, nah, I'm cool, man. He's like, you playing? Like, he's very physical, intimidating, dude, like he eat like bones and stuff. So, he made me play on the freshman team. Started one game out of maybe 19 games. We actually went undefeated that year. I started to learn basketball. I got more and more comfortable with it. Actually, what happened was, to be honest, how I really started to turn the corner was that this guy named Jay Syriac had actually come to, get this kid named Kurt Hobson off my freshman team. He wanted Kurt, but he befriended me to get close to Kurt. So he was always talking to me, having me relay messages back to Kurt and stuff. But at the same time, he'd be like, well, you can always come to the workouts if you want. So I would go to the workouts and they would work with me individually. And they literally taught me how to run chewing gum, learn how to run chewing gum and hold a basketball, then run chewing gum and dribble a basketball. So it was like in that every small incremental step that they taught me the game. And, as I went on to high school, I kept getting better and better and better.
Right. And at what point then did it click for you? Did you fall in love with it or become passionate about the game?
I would say it was probably my junior year in high school. So what happened was I transferred schools to St. Patrick's High School. And when I got there, I was probably the third best big man on the team. And at that time, I played with a point guard named Shaheen Holloway, and he was like he was the best point guard in the country at that time. And I used to remember all the time, like, he'd throw me the ball, and if I dropped the ball and stuff like that, like, he would go crazy. You know what I'm saying? So my sophomore year, I didn't have a lot of fun because I was like playing with him, and always being under so much pressure.
But you kind of needed that though at the time.
Definitely made me better. It made me stronger mentally. You know what I'm saying? But then, that summer I went to All-American camp in Adidas, and my high school coach just barely got me in there, literally snuck me. I didn't even stay on campus. And, I made the All-Star team that year or whatever. And then after that, I got ranked in the country. I started off maybe like 150 in the country. And I just kept climbing my way up till I ended up being Player of the Year in 2 years.
Yeah, but then from that moment of now you've reached a level of prominence per se, right? So you're being looked at now to even go to the NBA, that transition from high school to now, boom, like you're in the NBA and you're playing. What was that transition? Because you already had a learning curve, from high school and being in Jersey and then, coming to the league. So what was that transition like for you?
Well, once again, like I said, I was just young and naive, man. I didn't even really understand the magnitude of what I did. Like, everybody always say, like, damn, you went to the NBA. What was that like? That had to be crazy. Yeah, it was crazy, but at the end of the day, like, you kind of thrown into the wolves, you know what I'm saying? So you don't really have too much time to sit and be in awe of what the situation is. You gotta go, you know what I'm saying? And the good thing about it, too, that I went to a team that had a lot of veterans that taught me how to be a pro, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of people say you played a long career, but the reason why I played a long career is because of the foundation that was laid with the veteran players that I played with.
Yeah, and who were some of the first relationships you made when you stepped into that locker room? You had a lot of great players on that team. So who were some of the people
The first person was Antonio Davis. He actually let me live with him. So he had two twins, a boy and a girl, AJ and Kayla. They was 3 years old, I want to say, when I moved in with them, and I was like their big brother. Like, I literally sometimes I would have to watch them while him and his wife went out on dates. And I'm like, crazy. I'm in the league and I'm watching kids again, you know what I'm saying? Crazy. But, you know, he's very incremental. I mean, I tell people all the one story how I had got my taxes for the first time, and I didn't know what they was, so I had got these books in the mail from a FedEx or whatever, and I looked through them or whatever, all these numbers and stuff, so I took it and I put it in my closet. Yeah. So like 3 weeks later, whatever, I come home one day from practice or whatever, and Antonio got those same books, but he like signing them and shit. So I'm like, yo, what is that? He's like, I'm paying my taxes. I was like, y'all got some books just like that, like a couple weeks ago. He's like, well, you better sign them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
of course.
like, he taught me to pay taxes.
And now you have people like Antonio Davis, you have Chris Muller, who's giving you the structure in terms of how to be a professional, how to be in the league, how to do these things, and even mature as a young man. Right. But then now you're thrown into the wolves, and now you're in a new city too. How did you get adjusted to being in a brand new place and getting familiar with the space that you were? And you were there multiple seasons, so you had to really get familiar and get your foot in it.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I think that it was easy just because I lived with them, so it was almost the same structure I had from Jersey. You know what I'm saying? I had like, they were almost like my parents. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I had not only those guys, but all the other guys, you know. So I hung out with the Jalen Roses, Dale Davises. So they made it easy, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Dale and Jalen had a barbershop. So, you know, they introduced me to the dudes at the barbershop. They was more around my age, you know what I'm saying?
But I mean, too, being in Indiana, that's not necessarily the sexiest city people want to talk about it, kick it at, you know what I'm saying? So how was it with those guys being in the city, getting familiar with the city? Like,
I mean, you know, for it to be the NBA, it sucked. You know what I'm saying? Because you want to go somewhere you think you can party and all that. It's like Indiana, ain't none of that. But, you know, you learn that you have a good time on the road. You know what I'm saying? If you can, you know, and make you just, you know, do it responsibly or whatever. But, yeah, Indiana was definitely, I mean, it's changed a lot, like the way from, you know, it's been 20 years now since, you know, when I first went there or whatever. Like, this is 20 years this year. So it's changed a lot, but like when I first was there, like downtown was like 3 buildings. You know what I'm saying? So it was tough coming from Jersey going to Indiana.
Yeah, and you built a lot of camaraderie, obviously. That team was very tight, and the people who played on that team, the camaraderie that you guys had was very evident for people who saw you. So how was building that? You know, like getting to a point where now you're adjusted, and you're a veteran now, and now you're a part of this core group of people. So
no, I just think when you go to a good team with a lot of good guys, and when they got a lot of good core ways that the way they handle themselves, professionalism and stuff like that, you kind of just fall in line, you know what I'm saying? Because if you don't, you stick out, you know what I'm saying? And especially I played for Larry Bird my first 2 years, and like, you know, I got off to a bad start with him because, you know, after I got drafted, I was late for my press conference. I had missed my flight or whatever. So like, I never had a real good relationship with him because of that. He held that against me the whole 2 years that he coached me, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like I said, it taught me responsibility, you know what I'm saying? I never was late again after that, you know what I'm saying? And you know, so, you know, that just kind of show you like the way the team structure was. And I mean, even the guys said something to me about it, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn, bro, how you gonna be late for your first, you know what I'm saying? I'm not thinking, so I'm coming from high school, you know what I'm saying? I'm not thinking that it's that big of a deal, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, when you deal with professionals, everything is structured, you know what I'm saying? You gotta respect that.
Right, and then you have this moment where you've built that team, and that team was very successful too, and you guys went on runs and had this camaraderie, but then you leave Indiana. So how hard was that for you making that shift the first time you had to leave?
I mean, it wasn't hard for me because, you know, I wanted to see if I could, you know, I wanted to start, you know what I'm saying? You know, Indiana had like this vision of me like being like the ultimate 6 man like my whole career. And, you know, at the end of the day, like we all live to have our name called, you know what I'm saying, when the game first started, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I ventured off and, you know, I went to Atlanta. Then, you know, I had personal success, but my team success was nothing. You know what I'm saying? First year we won 13 games. I think the next year we won like 21. You know what I'm saying? And when I left Indiana that year, we had won 61 games. So that was a transition for me too, because it was the first time I ever lost, like at any level. Because in high school, we won, we played at a high level, we always won. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, my freshman year, we went undefeated. Then I go into Indiana, a team that's a championship caliber team. We go to the playoffs every single year. And then I go to Atlanta and we win 13 games. So it was like culture shock for me. And
now, how do you handle that? Like, how did you make sense of that and actually stay focused to get through something like that?
Because, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, my personality is always the way I approached every year, every summer was that it's always a young guy in the draft coming to take my job. you know? So no matter what kind of success we was having on the court, you know what I'm saying, I always knew that I had to make sure I kept bringing it every single night, you know? Yeah. So that's the reason why I always stayed on top of my game, because I was always afraid of somebody taking my spot.
Now, even though you switched teams, you built these relationships. So what role did the veterans and the people who you built these strong relationships with in Indiana play as you moved on and even went to another team? And how did you keep those relationships together?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really relationships. It's just, like I said, those core values that they taught me, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, when I go to Atlanta, I think I was the third oldest player on the team, and I was 24 years old.
Wow.
Like, so we was babies. We was the youngest team in NBA history, you know what I mean? So I got all these young kids that's 18 years old looking up at me, calling me OG. And I'm 24, my 6th year in the league, you know what I'm saying? So the only thing I could give them was like a lot of the stuff that those guys taught me, and I had to lead by example, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I always try to be the first guy in there, the last guy to leave, and just try to show them, like, this is how you have success, this is how you stay around the league, because that's what those guys showed me.
And it sounds like even when you talked about in high school, being pushed into playing basketball, being thrown into the league and these things, you've adjusted. Was that a tough adjustment now, being the leader and being one of the oldest on the team, coming from being a young dude? Or was that something you just kind of took on and said?
That's something I kind of took on. Right. And, you know, sometimes you think about, like, when you lead guys that don't know anything, it's kind of easy. You know what I'm saying? This is, you know, I think it's a little tougher when, you know, you take like a guy like LeBron, when he always has to lead veterans. You know what I'm saying? He's leading guys that have been stars and different things like that, and now they're on the back side of their career, and they have to believe in him. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I kind of had that part of it. That transition was pretty easy, just because no matter what I told them, whether it was good or bad, they would believe it.
Right. And then even going from Atlanta, then moving on from there, was that something where you were ready and prepared for it? Like the same way you said, I want to go to Atlanta to start.
Right.
When you move on from there, was that something that you were still prepared for, thinking about, or it was more unexpected and you had to?
Nah, you know, so, you know, obviously, like I said, we sucked in Atlanta, so I definitely didn't want to go back there. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying to figure out what was the best situation, and Indiana came back knocking, so it was somewhere I was super familiar with, so it was easy for me to go back there. Everybody, all the same players was there for the most part, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like I took a 2-year hiatus and I came right back, but this time when I came back, I was actually a starter. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I did. Leverage to come back. I did. I proved that, you know, I was a starter caliber player or whatever, but, you know, that team, we didn't have the type of success we had that, you know, before I had left.
Now, how is that too balancing between wanting to have team success and also challenging yourself and wanting to have, you know, wanting to excel, like you say, wanting to start, wanting to be on a championship caliber team? A lot of that is why players may move around, as we see now in the NBA, to different teams or make adjustments. Like, how is trying to balance that between saying, yo, I'm a team player, I'm going to stick it out here, versus I have my own goals I want to accomplish? Like, how is that balance?
Well, I mean, for me, I learned it after I left Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Because I went to Atlanta and I averaged 20 points, and teams act like it didn't mean anything because we didn't win. So I learned at that time how important team success is to your overall, the way they overall look at you. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, after that, I realized that my individual stats didn't really mean as much as the team success and being a part of it, being some type of a positive, is the reason why the team is winning. That's how you really create your true value.
Right. So in doing that and you moved on, you said you came back to Indiana now. So then what was that like then coming back to that team?
Like I said, it was easy because I knew everybody there. You know what I'm saying? I think that the tougher part was actually leaving again than that same season that I just got back, you know what I mean? Because when I came back that time, I was willing to play 6-man, you know what I'm saying? I was like, whatever, I just want to stay here. I know I can win here. I'm familiar, my family's here. It was just like, you know, whatever. I got my fix by leaving. Now I'm ready to be back, but we ended up getting traded to Golden State that same year. And then, you know, the rest is history. We had great success there, you know what I'm saying, for a 2-year span as well.
What's that experience like? Because people see players get moved around and traded all the time, and I don't think people, if you don't play the game or you're not in it, you just see, oh, these 4 players are going here for these players. You don't really know what goes into it. What's that really like, and what goes through your mind when you get that phone call? It's like you're getting traded. You're not doing it the way you want to do it. You actually
It's tough because, I mean, I only been traded one time in the season. I've only been traded twice, but I only been traded one time, twice in the season. And, you know, for that one, it was surprising because, you know, when I came back, you know, I signed a 4-year deal. Everybody was excited to have me back. You know, Larry Bird was kind of working as a consultant. Donnie Walsh was still a GM.
And y'all cool at this time?
Yeah, we was definitely cool at this time because he was my coach or whatever. But, you know, I had just bought a house and gutted it and like renovated the inside and like customized it, like 2 TVs in my bedrooms. It was like, I went over the top.
Yeah.
And like I was only living in it for like 4 days. And like the 5th day I was living in the house is when I got traded. You know what I'm saying? So that like, it crushed me. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying like, I just did all this to this house and I gotta leave. You know what I'm saying? But it's tough because like I said, you pretty much, they give you like 48 hours to pick up your life and roll. You know what I'm saying? And then you gotta either have family or whatever that can come and do all the packing for you and all that type of stuff. So being traded in season is tough.
Now that's something that obviously is can be devastating at times, or something where you say it could be unexpected and be very uncomfortable. But what's the lesson in that? Like when you've experienced that or seen that, what does that teach you, and how do you take from that something that's actually
you just learn the business of basketball. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you look at it, there's 2 ways you can look at it. Like, you know, you leave in a situation where you wasn't wanted, or you go into a situation where you was wanted.
Yeah.
So that's your positive or negative spin on it. But you know, it's just part of it. And you know, when they make the decision, you just gotta go with it. You know what I'm saying? They pick up your contract, you want to be paid, so you gotta go and be professional.
Yeah. What was your favorite city to play in, or what was some memories or some moments that you had that always stick with you now?
My favorite city was definitely New York, because I grew up a Knicks fan. You know what I'm saying? I was a Jordan fan, but like whenever he played against the Knicks, I was rooting for the Knicks, and like my mother, everybody Knicks fan. So when I was able to play for the Knicks, it was like a dream come true for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I tell people all the time, like before, my biggest fear in the Garden was to be booed. You know what I'm saying? Because I seen them give it to people, you know what I'm saying? And I can't say for the 2 years I was here, I never got booed once. You know what I'm saying? I always bought it. I always, you know, played pretty solid here.
Yeah, and you having 16 years in the league is more than a lot of people dream to play, and it's something where I feel like you've been able to be on specific teams, like you said, that have gone far, and you've been able to develop yourself. So now stepping out and looking back too, like how would you explain or qualify what that run and experience in the NBA altogether meant to you, or felt like looking back?
I mean, the one thing I can't say, it was fast. You know what I'm saying? Like 16 years went by fast.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I look back at it, you know. But you know, it was impactful for me. You know what I'm saying? When I look at like what basketball did for me and my family, like it changed my family life. You know what I'm saying? It allowed us to see the world, have a lot of experience that I never even dreamed of. You know what I'm saying? Like I really wasn't a little kid dreaming about playing in the NBA or going to Africa or going to all the places that I've actually been. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's just amazing, like, you know, the things that basketball has allowed me to do.
And I think too, a lot of people, when they see, you know, the LeBron recently opening the school, you really see, and people have done it before, but seeing somebody like LeBron, you see basketball really as a vehicle, as a tool to do so many, you know, other things for you. Did it get to a point where now, of course, you have the cannabis and you're doing other things and you've traveled so much, where basketball really was that for you? Like you love to play, but it became something that allowed you to just have access to so many other things.
I think, like I said, it just go from experiences, because I think as you get older, you start thinking about legacy. You know what I'm saying? So like, for me, like, I don't want to just be known as a dude that played basketball, because I'm much more than that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what LeBron is on. He's like, yo, at the end of the day, yeah, I may be the greatest basketball player in the world, but I'm one of the greatest human beings as well. And, you know, we're always fighting that stigma that we're just athletes. You know what I'm saying? And we just make your money and be quiet and don't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? But now we more than that. You know what I'm saying? We're entrepreneurs. We're parents. You know what I'm saying? With brothers, sisters, you know, sons, and, you know, we do a lot of good, you know what I'm saying? So it's good to see that, you know, obviously LeBron just has a totally different platform, because you're right, like Jalen Rose has been done that. You know, Puffy's done it. You know, a lot of different people have created schools, but when you see somebody of his magnitude, you know, it's just really amazing, because I feel like, if anything, it's more inspiring to other athletes coming behind him to do the same thing.
And for you too, like, what are some of the other ventures you've gotten involved in outside of basketball? And then where did this passion for cannabis and all of that, you know, stem from?
I've done a little bit of everything: real estate, cars.
And is that something too? I'm sure you had veteran players. They're encouraging you too, like, yo, you need to go do other things outside of basketball and get involved in other things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you gotta invest. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, like, yeah, we make a nice amount of money, but you want your money to keep making money. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be smart, try to meet the right people. It's all about who you meet, you know what I'm saying, and the deals that you get put in. So, just trying to find that trust of people is really tough, you know what I'm saying? But like for cannabis, like, I grew up, like I said, I grew up in Jersey where I was taught to believe that cannabis was a gateway drug, so I was taught that if I smoked weed, I was gonna smoke crack. And I seen crackheads in the alleys, you know what I'm saying? So I know I never wanted to be that guy, you know what I'm saying? Then even in 8th grade, I remember one day they did a raid at my school and they arrested 15 kids that had weed in their lockers and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was something I didn't want to be a part of. So the first time I saw weed, not that I saw weed, in high school I had some players that smoked or whatever, but when I got to the NBA and I saw some of my teammates smoking and they were some of the best players on the team, it really threw me. Because I'm like, wow, they really can operate and go out here and kill on a nightly basis, and they use cannabis all the time, you know what I'm saying? And then I looked at it, also, I was like, it's two different types of teammates because, you had the smokers and then the guys that party. So, the smokers, they smoke, they sit, play video games and chill, right? The drinkers, strip club, blah, blah, blah. The next day we go to shoot around, the smokers is getting their work in, ready to play that night. The drinkers, they moving slow. You know what I'm saying? They hungover, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to be there, they're not inspired. So that was the first time I was like, damn, okay, weed really isn't that bad, but I still didn't think it was for me because I still had that thing okay, they just strong enough that they're not crackheads. You know what I'm saying? So I signed with the Denver Nuggets, and when I got there, I was always reading the newspaper every morning or whatever. That's part of my thing. I get donuts, orange juice in my newspaper, and I make sure the rookies had it on my chair every day. And, every time I look at the newspaper, it was always something in there about cannabis, you know what I'm saying? So I would always just read the little articles and stuff. And my grandmother had come to see me play that year or whatever. So when she got there, she had put this pill box up in my kitchen and she started popping all these things and just started taking all these pills. So, I walked up, so I'm like, damn, Grandma, why are you taking all that medication? And she started telling me about all the stuff she was dealing with. She I got diabetes, high blood pressure, glaucoma, this, that, and the third. So when she said glaucoma, I was like, well, Grandma, I was just reading the newspaper that cannabis helps with glaucoma. She's like, what is cannabis?
So this is when you're realizing it's healing, it actually has positive.
I'm just reading, I don't realize, I'm just reading. So I don't know, I never seen it help anybody. I'm just reading it, you understand what I'm saying? So when she told me she's suffering from glaucoma, I'm telling her 2 days ago I read something about it. So I'm telling her about cannabis and she's like, what's cannabis? And I said, it's weed, marijuana. So she was like, reefer? She's like, boy, I ain't smoking no reefer. You better get out my face. She's like, reefer ruins your grandfather's life, ruins your uncle's lives. Look at talking about my aunt, so, naming them by name. Look how crazy she is smoking that reefer. So I'm like, all right, whatever, Grandma. So the next day I came home and I had a game. And she was sitting in my kitchen. This time her face was in her hands. And when I walked in, I'm like, what's up, Grandma? And she's squinting. And she was just like, is that you, baby doll? She called me baby doll. She my eyes hurt so bad today, I could barely see. And I said, so you telling me you're taking all that medication and you still can't see? You still in pain? And she was like, it's hit or miss. So I said, well, Grandma, listen, why don't we just try the cannabis? You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, I had no idea what was gonna work. And on the ignorant side of me, I kind of wanted to see my grandma high. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna front.
Of course. Yeah.
So I'm like, Grandma, why don't you just try it, whatever? And we talked about it. She was like, you know what? I'm in so much pain today, I'll try anything. So I called my boy who had a card or whatever. I was like, yo, go to the dispensary and ask him for something for glaucoma. So he brought back Vietnam Kush. I'll never forget what it was. Brought it back, we vaporized it for her. I took it in my garage and she started smoking it or whatever, right? But she smoked it like she smoked. She not coughing or nothing. I'm looking at her, I'm like, Grandma, you sure you won't smoke? So she boy, I smoked a cigarette one time when I was 16 or whatever. So took her downstairs. I went upstairs and took my nap. So woke up an hour and a half later, and before I jumped in the shower, I said, I'm just gonna make sure she all right.
Right.
So I go downstairs and I knock on the door. And when I poked my head through the door, she was looking down. And I said, Grandma, you okay? And she turned around and she was crying tears. And she said, I'm healed. She said, I haven't been able to read the words of my Bible in over 3 years.
Wow.
So like, she made me start tearing up. So I went in the room and I hugged her or whatever. And she was just like, I can't believe it. She's like, everything is just so bright. She's like, I can see it. Everything is so clear, blah,
that's
blah, blah,
amazing,
blah.
Yeah.
And that's when it changed the way I looked at it. That's the first time I seen it help somebody. So I started reading up on it, doing my little investigations and due diligence on cannabis.
Right.
And it pretty much inspired me to invest in 2011. And, when I first invested, what we did was all the flower that we grew was only for HIV and cancer patients.
So then from that experience, how did it evolve into what you have right now? You have Viola, you have so many other ventures in different markets. Like, what was the process of evolution?
Yeah, so like, to be honest, I got in, like, I had no idea, like, I would be at this point, you know what I'm saying, with this company, literally, like, we were caregivers, and I thought the caregiver model was something that was just gonna, like, obviously allow us to help people, but just, like, put some money in our pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had no idea that we was gonna end up, being a national brand and going to all these different states. You know what I'm saying? But pretty much what happened, we were caregivers until 2013. And in 2014, they killed the caregiver model. And in order for you to have a facility, you needed to obviously be permitted. You had to get a license. And you had to establish some type of a company, So for us, we always held true to, who we were and why we started, you know what I'm saying? And we decided to name the company Viola, which is my grandmother's name.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Amazing,
And, the reason why we actually became an extract company instead of just selling straight flower was because the one issue my grandmother was having was that, like I always tell people, she's like the backbone of not only our family, but like her church. So she was always nervous that when people came to her house smelled like weed. You know what I'm saying? So she stopped taking it. So my aunts would call me and be like, yo, Ma, not taking it, blah, 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 blah. She think her whole house, she think the front of the house smell like weed, whatever. So I was just thinking I had to come up with a way to be able to medicate her without everybody knowing, being discreet about it. And that pretty much, put me into the extract business because, obviously when you extract the plant down until you turn the THC into liquid form, at that point you can infuse it in anything, wine, edibles, vapes, anything like that. And, you can actually medicate without anyone knowing. And, I banked on that being, the future of cannabis.
Right. And then now you're in 4 different markets now. So, describe how it's evolved and where it is right now and where you're looking to take it from this point.
Yeah, so what we did was, man, it took us 2.5 years before we really dialed in our processes and, was able to make SOPs and different things like that where we know exactly how we wanted to operate, our secret sauces and different things like that. So once we did that, being that I'm in the NBA and, at that time I was slowly coming out the closet as being an entrepreneur, it was a lot of different opportunities being thrown at me, you know what I'm saying? So I looked at some of them, a lot of them, I wasn't comfortable with. So, I'm one of those people, if I see something that makes a lot of sense, and I could do it myself, I'll do it myself. So what we did was, we went to Michigan, we got a 50,000 square foot building there that, the city of Detroit is one of the few cities in the state of Michigan that allow vertical integration. So there we'll be able to cultivate, manufacture, and retail out of that location.
Very important.
We're super excited about that. That should be coming online, first quarter, 2019. I also went to Oregon and saw another opportunity there where I actually bought a 40-acre farm. So I'm actually a farmer. You know what I'm saying? So I went out there. Which is dope. It was, crazy for a dirty dude from Jersey. But, I do farming out in Oregon, 40-acre farm there. We did a 40,000 square foot outdoor grow, which is like absolutely beautiful. We make really high quality cannabis out there. And in California, what I chose to do there, instead of competing with a lot of these mega grows that are being built and stuff like that, what I did was I partnered with some where, they grow my strains, through my SOPs. They do the manufacturing, through my SOPs. And pretty much all I have to do is worry about is packaging and marketing and branding the product. You know what I'm saying? And, at the end of the day, like my goal is to create a lifestyle brand around cannabis. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen anybody do it at a high level, and I feel like why not myself? You know what I'm saying? When I think about, just the relationships that I have, the fact that, I am a minority, I'm Black, and, I just feel like there's a culture about, cannabis as well, because at the end of the day, like the black market is a $25 billion industry or something crazy like that, and 85% of all drug arrests is, especially, it's cannabis related, especially for minorities and black people. So I feel like we know how to sell cannabis. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We know how to do it. We know how to make it cool, and so that's something that is really important to us, and important for me is giving other minorities and black people an opportunity to be in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap it up, let people know where they can find it, where they can get it, or where they can find you.
Yeah, so in the states that we're in, like I said, we're in Colorado, we're in we will be in Michigan right now, but we're operating in Colorado right now, Oregon and California.
Okay.
Michigan is coming online. We're applying for an application in New Jersey, where I'm from. We just did a deal in Jamaica, so we have our genetics is out there growing right now. So we'll be on shelves in Jamaica first quarter 2019 as well, and then I'm working on a partnership in Canada as well. So we're becoming an international brand as well.
Absolutely, and as we wrap it up too, words also, you coming from a teenager to where you are now, going through the league as long as you have to being an entrepreneur, you're still a young dude, and you have overcome a lot of statistics or odds that I feel like a lot of people would look at and say, yo, he's really an example, he's inspiring. So for young people who are in those positions, like what would be some of your words to them, or to yourself if you look back at the one who was getting pushed into basketball to where you are now?
I mean, my biggest thing is just find something you're passionate about, and whether it makes a lot of money or not, man, like do it, because that's what's going to bring you ultimate happiness. You know what I'm saying? You got to do something that you love. And, for me, like, as much as I love basketball, like I'm so surprised that there's times when I can like be cool and not hoop. You know what I'm saying? But cannabis is it has fulfilled that role. And I tell you all the time, like, when I played 16 years, but my goal was to play 20, right? My knee is what stopped me from continuing to play. But, I probably could have fought and did the training camp thing, made the team, but at the end of the day, I had cannabis. And, it has so much of my interest, you know what I'm saying, that it was easy for me to put the basketball down. And it's hard for people to find that, because, I have, friends, ex-players that are still trying to find. They've been done 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and they still can't find their way. So, I would just tell people just to, find something you're passionate about and just go for it, you know what I'm saying?
And it's legal in California and Oregon and places now. How many players in the league would you say by percentage smoke marijuana or use cannabis?
I would say at least 80%. In some shape, form, or fashion. Even if they just try it, maybe not use it every day, but when they're hanging out with their girl at the beach, they'll take an edible. You know what I'm saying? I firmly believe that most. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just the way we can sit here and drink wine like we are now, you should be able to consume cannabis.
Absolutely. Like, how do you see the NBA or institutions like that getting over the stigma of marijuana and using the drug?
I think that it's not going to be until it's federally legal, until I think leagues really let their guard down and allow players to use cannabis. The issue that we have is just we live in a time of like ignorance, and I mean it's at such a high level because of social media. You know what I'm saying? So opinions get formed from people that aren't even real people a lot of times.
Literally,
you know what I'm
bots
saying?
And things like that.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like I look at it like, if the NBA tomorrow said, you know what, we're gonna allow cannabis use, right? The first game, Steph Curry go out and go 0 for 8 from 3. They're gonna be like, I wonder if he was in the base smoking the night before that. And then it's gonna go viral. You know what I'm saying? So it's the perception that the leagues are trying to protect themselves against, and I get it. You know what I'm saying? But, my last story is like, when I was in the league, at the end of the game, like, when you just think about the whole thing we go through. So we wake up from our nap, we jump in the shower, we blasting music, right? So we like just getting our ego going, we getting our mojo going, right out the shower, get ready for the game. So you get dressed, check yourself out in the mirror, make sure you look good, you know what I'm saying? Now you leave the house, you jump in the car, you banging that music even louder. You just building yourself up, you know what I'm saying? So you get to the arena, you get dressed, you go get your shots up, you watch your film, you bring it in, you get hyped before the game, go out and play. Now, when you go out there and you play, like, it's so many ranges of emotions we go through throughout the game, you know what I'm saying? You get into it with the guy you playing against, your teammate, your coach, somebody tell you suck in the crowd, you tell them they mother, you go through all this stuff. At the end of the game, like, you know, yeah, you're tired, but you still revved up. Like, you like, what's next? You know what I'm saying? And what a lot of us do, most of us do, 90% of us do, we tell the ball boy, go get us a bottle of liquor. You know what I'm saying? So the ball boy go get us a bottle of Grey Goose, make our little Grey Goose and cranberry right there on the side of our chair. And you know, by the time we left the locker room, we done had 2 Grey Goose and cranberries. You know what I'm saying? Now we get on the bus. You know, we passing the Grey Goose around the bus. We drinking. We get on the plane. We drinking. So by the time we, you know, landed to the city we're going to, at the end of the day, we know that there's no benefits of alcohol. You know what I'm saying? If anything's gonna one give us a hangover and one's gonna have us dehydrated. You know what I'm saying? Right. Or let's change it. Let's just say you allow cannabis use and you actually do it smart. You know what I'm saying? Where you find out what levels players need and stuff like that help bring them down. So now, instead of the trainer walking around giving you anti-inflammatories or Vicodin and different things like that, he's actually giving you an edible. You know, an edible that has 100 milligrams of CBD and 10% THC. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm sitting in my locker, I take that. By the time I get to the bus, I'm relaxed. You know what I'm saying? It puts me on the plane, I'm chilling, I get a great night's sleep. Which player you want to play the next night?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that, and that's real. Like, which player? I'd rather have the player that used cannabis to get ready for the next day than the guy that's, you know, obviously dehydrated and can't be all that he can be. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's when people got to really, you know, and I tell people all the time, like, the players are like, they're professional. Like, we know it's like hunt or be hunted out there on the court. I'm not showing up to the game high to play against Zach Randolph. I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not coming to play against Kobe high. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? I know I gotta have all my shit with me to play against them. You know what I'm saying? So that whole perception that players are gonna come to the game high and all that, and then if you do have that one guy, it's 1 out of 450 guys. You know what I'm saying? It won't happen often, and I don't think it'll happen at all, to be honest, if they allowed it.
Absolutely, man. Well, congratulations to you. I hope the business continues to grow, and absolutely congrats on all your success in the league as well. And congrats to you also for a long NBA career. This is Al Harrington. You are watching the City to City podcast. I'm your host, Julian Mitchell, and we are out.